Hey folks, Cerebral Tackle here. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to tie a fly. Now this fly is multi-species catching. I mean, you can catch bluegill on it, bass on it, trout love it, anything that swims loves it. Why? Because it represents something pretty much everything eats. A worm. Now the beauty of this little worm is the fact that you might very well have everything you need to tie it already there in your tackle box and in your garage. Also, it is the easiest fly pattern to tie. Trust me on this. So if you're new to fly tying and you're trying to get your confidence up and want something that'll catch anything but something very easy to start off on, this is it. Trust me, it doesn't get any easier than this. Now a little bit about when I first learned of this specific pattern. This was back, a good 20 years ago or so. Back when this pattern was being used by all the guides and guys in the know, but it hadn't really filtered out to everybody else yet. My wife and I were visiting another state. And well, we were there for a friend's wedding. And while we were there, I wanted to get her some fly casting lessons. I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't exactly the one to teach her. So we went to a place called Unicoi Outfitters in Helen, Georgia. And the guide that we had there that day that was giving her a quick lesson on fly fishing showed us this pattern called a chamois worm. Some of you fly guys are going to look at it and say, I know a chamois worm. Of course, y'all in the know do, right? I didn't at the time. The wife didn't. And a lot of other anglers watching this won't either. But it's the easiest to tie, most fish catching little pattern there is. So today, I'm going to teach you how to do it. So here in the vise, I've got a number 12 nymph hook, a generic, probably like a White River fly hook, number 12. And then we have a little 2.5 millimeter tungsten bead right there. That's just to add a little bit of weight to it. The yarn I'm going to be using, I think, is a 210 Danville, kind of this light olive or light insect green kind of color here. Forgive me, I'm having to guess. The label's off and it's been a while. Now, the next thing you're going to need, you'll probably have in your garage, especially if you're a car guy, is just a piece of car chamois. Yeah, just an old skin chamois here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of that chamois, about 3 inches or so, maybe 3.5 inches in length, and about 3/32 of an inch wide, and we're going to cut two like little diamond shapes there, on one on either end there. And that's what we're going to use as our worm. Okay folks, now we're going to attempt to tie this. And I say attempt to tie this because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for you than it is for me. Why? Because y'all don't have to look through the screen of your phone to do it. I have very limited camera resources, and until I make enough money at this thing to get more production value, we're stuck doing what we're doing. So I'm going to take my thread here and I'm going to do a few passes to kind of get our starting base layer on here. And I'm going to kind of come up towards where the hook starts to bend as I keep getting cross here with my tag end. I'm going to come right about there to the middle and stop. And I'm going to grab my scissors. And I'm going to trim this tag end right there. So that's what we've got thus far. Now we're going to take our bead and we're going to move it here to right around the middle. Now this is going to be the tricky part. I'm going to have to reach around here and hold that so that I can kind of come to this side of it. Here a couple wraps. Then I'm going to come back around the other side of it. A couple wraps. I want to kind of hold it in place there. So now we got our nice little bead pinned in there. Okay folks, for me this next part is going to be dangerous. I'm going to take a little Loctite super glue, the Ultra Gel Control here, if I can get to zoom there. I love the Ultra Gel Control for fishing related things, whether it be pinching a swim bait to a head of a jig head or something like this, because it's thick. It doesn't take a lot, and you can really put it on precisely where you want it to be. I'm going to put just a little bit there on the front, a little bit on the back there. and right across my little bead. Then, hopefully before this stuff dries the hell up, I'm going to very carefully try not to glue myself to the chamois and to the hook and to the vise. And I'm going to take this strip of chamois we have that I've cut the little diamond patterns on the end, and I'm going to measure it out about halfway there, and I'm going to try to get it to pinch down here to the surface, kind of where that super glue is. And I'm going to come across the back part first with a few wraps behind this bead. And I'm going to take a few wraps there. Trying to get just in that one little spot. And then I'm going to come up here. And I'm going to go across in front of the bead and do the same thing here, being careful to keep it centered on the back of that hook. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this and look and see where it's at. As you can see, the it bulging right there in the middle. That's what we want. We're going to come back across the back a few times again. Back across the front. All the while keeping your thread nice and taut. Okay, so now, oops, I got a bit of a mistake there. Ooh. Now see, right there, the best laid plans. But we can fix it. What we're going to do is we're going to back it up. And we're going to get that little spot there that I screwed up. Off of there, see? I don't do 1,000 takes. I just fix what it is I screw up. See, that's all I did. And that was on those last little measures there. Our last little wraps. So we're still in good position there. So we're going to take, I'm going to hold it over here where it goes. We're going to get it right there in position. Keeping it taut so that it doesn't twist too bad on the back of the hook. That little mistake wouldn't have happened had I not had the camera in front of me. Now, as you can see, we've got this sucker perfectly centered there. We've got our tag end up there at the top, down there at the bottom. We're good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my whip finishing tool, which I haven't used in about 1 billion years, and we're going to finish this bad boy up. Now our whip finishing tool, for those of you who don't know, is this little bad boy right here. It's pretty close right there. It's basically our nice little knot tool. It creates a half hitch. And we come in under the worm. Come up here. That one didn't work as great as I wanted it to because I am out of practice. Now guys, I am not the most accomplished I'm not the most accomplished fly tyer on the planet by any stretch of the imagination, but I know what it is I'm doing for the most part. And I haven't done this in a long time, which means that if I can do this, you can do this too. If you don't have a half hitch tool or a whip finisher, you just do what you did right there. Just use your freaking fingers. And you do that just by making an overhand knot, coming over what it is you're working with. And then we're going to do that one on the back. And get it nice and cinched down tight there. So we've got our half hitch. We've got it tied on. Now here's the finished product. There we go. There it is. Now you have that little tungsten bead there for weight. You'll be able to take this thing out, put on a spinning bubble. You can tie it with or without a bead. If you lay down that foundation of your glue first and then put your chamois on over it and wrap it, do your half hitches and tie it down, you're good. At that point, you don't necessarily need a bead if you don't want one. If you're using using it in a little bit faster water, go with a bead. Okay, that's why I went ahead and used a bead here. Because I'll generally fish it in a stream, but if you're going to be fishing it in even a slower stream, hell, I mean, it is what it is. It'll catch it. Okay, this is the simplest freaking bait. I cannot tell you how long it's been since I've actually tied any kind of a trout jig or fly pattern. I mean, I'm telling you, it's been over a decade. And I was able to come up here and yeah, I had a couple quick flubs, but it was easy. So if I can do it with that much time off of doing this, you guys can go out, practice it a couple times and do it. I promise you, it's the easiest, most fish catching pattern on the planet. And a lot of folks that know it won't tell it because it is that easy and it is that productive. Anything that eats a night crawler will eat this. And what makes it so good is that the way it's wrapped here, it essentially is like a wacky worm in the water. Here, I'll show you. Now, a little bit about how this worm works. Whenever it hits the water, the chamois will start to absorb water. It'll go from this light beige to more of a light nightcrawler brown. Also, being the fact that it's tied in the center, you'll get kind of a wacky rig kind of presentation, a bit of a flicker, as you slightly pull it in the water as it's going downstream. So give it just a light twitch, whether you're putting it behind a spinning bubble on a spinning rod, or if you have your fly rod, just draw in a little bit of line, give it a little wacky worm twitch. That way it looks like a nice, natural night crawler presentation as it's slow rolling down the stream. It'll catch trout beautifully. I've caught a lot of trout on this. And I haven't decided yet whether to put the trout that I caught on it most recently in the thumbnail. I may. If not, I'll insert the picture here too. But it catches. As you can see in the photograph, that's one of these freaking chamois worms hanging out of that bad boy's mouth. So, it absolutely catches trout. It'll catch bluegill, bass, even crappie on occasion. Anything that hits a night crawler, it will catch. There it is, folks. The easy to tie, beginner level, yet fish catching machine, the chamois worm. Please forgive the janky camera work. I've got limited options to work with. And like I said, it's been over 10 years since I've tied this thing, and I did not do any practice runs before bringing it to you guys. I could have cheated, tied a few, and looked like a consummate pro by the time I did it. But I want to be honest and fair with you guys. This was the first time I'd done it in over 10 years. If I can do it, you can do it. It's one of those easy confidence building flies to tie. All you need is a good vise to hold it, a size number 12 to 14 nymph hook, some fly tying thread, little super glue, and a piece of car chamois. You've got it. Now, I highly recommend a little bit of good gel control super glue, especially like that Loctite I was using. Great stuff for fishing. Anyway, there you have it. If this rusty old fart can do it, you can do it. So get your supplies together, tie up some chamois worms, get out there, like, share, subscribe, keep it wet.